Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story, A Male Protagonist is Blocking My Way. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy. Ariel is out and about on a summer night when a young man bumps into her. She's not the type to just let things slide, so she confronts the guy about it. But instead of apologizing, the young man tells her to move away. As a result, she becomes even more upset. But just a second later, armed men begin to circle them, now realizing that the young man is actually being pursued. The boss grabs Ariel by the hair while the young man begins to unsheath his sword in an attempt to save her. But to everyone's disbelief, our girl throws an uppercut with ease. That's an unexpected KO from Ariel. While the men are busy helping their boss, the young man urges her to escape to alert the guards, but she is unable to do so since the armed men are getting serious about taking them down. She also sees that the young man isn't in a condition to fight, so she decides to help him, but it's more like she's taking the men all on her own. After the chaos, the young man, who is still in shock, asks who she is, but rather than replying, she demands an apology and a thank you from him, which again, she does not receive. To stop him from running away, she locks her elbow around his neck, and that's when she first catches a glimpse of his stunning face. She can't stop staring at him since he's so handsome. Well, we can't blame you. Only to be startled when the young man thinks she's a little creepy. Anyway, the young man finally thanks her and asks for the address of the LA Pritz mansion, which is actually her house. When they arrive at their gate, she wakes up their guard, who apparently isn't surprised to see her sneaking out late again. But when he sees the young man's face, he quickly apologizes and lets them in. She casually talks to the young man, which surprised the guard, who realized their lady has no idea who she's with. His condition is getting worse when all of a sudden, their main door opens, with her brother raging at her for being late yet again and being surprised to see the young man, whom he refers to as Prince Siegfried. He is supposed to be coming to their house by carriage, but got attacked on his way. She can't believe that she brought the main lead into their house. Now in her room, she's looking more alive than ever. She can't sleep and is getting anxious since she can't completely remember the contents of the novel she's currently in. Well, to be honest, who can remember all the novels they've ever read? Actually, Ariel has read this in her past life, but she can't remember it because the novel isn't really her cup of tea. Thankfully, however, there are some portions that she can clearly recall, and that is Siegfried's story. It is stated that the first emperor of their nation was blessed by God and granted amazing abilities, which were passed down to his descendants, the imperial family. And as time went on, the purity of the first emperor's blood decreased, and the powers that were passed down gradually disappeared. However, there is still a way to tell if someone has the blood of the first emperor, and that is through their eyes. Purple eyes, which only the main character, Siegfried, has. Siegfried is the only child of the Empress, while Aisa is his half-brother and the son of the Emperor's mistress. One day, an unknown fire broke out at the Empress's house and killed her at a young age. The nobles who supported the Empress demanded a thorough investigation, but the Emperor totally ignored them and even gave the Empress's seat to his mistress. All of this happened when Siegfried was only 10 years old, and Duke Blanche has been caring for him ever since. She believes that Siegfried is now trying to get his throne back and remembers that according to the original novel, she is destined to be the prince's fiancé, and becoming involved in the imperial family's war for the throne is the last thing she wants. It's been a week since Siegfried has remained at their estate, and she hasn't seen him except for the legislator who comes and goes in his room. Her thoughts are interrupted by her maid, who kicks her out of her room to clean and instructs her to read elsewhere. LOL. As she steps outside, she recalls an open area behind their mansion that would be ideal for her to read and relax, until she notices Siegfried practicing with a swollen wrist. She tries to leave, but not fast enough for the prince not to notice, so she has no choice but to greet him smilingly. All she gets in response is a blank gaze, so she smiles awkwardly and asks him if he's all right. But as expected, Siegfried coldly tells her that he's fine. Ariel still tries to be kind by offering him her handkerchief, but again, he refuses. She worries about his wrist, but remembers he is said to be a genius and will be a war hero in the future, so she just watches him practicing his sword. But as she observes him, she realizes that his actual performance falls short of her expectations of a genius swordsman. And without realizing, she blurts out nonsense, catching the prince's attention. It makes her panic and immediately apologizes while the prince accepts. And when his wrist begins to hurt again, she advises him to get it checked before it becomes a problem. And all she gets is him being rude again. She doesn't understand why he's so cold to her when it's only their second meeting today. And to her confusion, Siegfried simply dislikes her. There should be a reason why he hates her, right? Siegfried, who is innocently honest, tells her that when they initially met in the alley, he couldn't see her face properly. So when they returned to the mansion and the lights began to shine on her face, his stomach felt stuffy and gloomy for the first time, which he hates. In other words, he got butterflies in his stomach. While our girl here believes it is because he was in bad condition at the time. These two are so clueless. Afterwards, Ariel asks him straight out if he's still upset whenever he looks at her now. It looks like he doesn't hate her anymore and even apologizes for bumping into her that night. They got close enough that Ariel may now question why he wasn't doing well back then, and he discloses that Aisa tried to poison him to death. He feels better now, but not completely, given that he can't even swing his sword properly. So Ariel suggests wrapping his wrist, which he declines. But this time, she ignores him and grabs his arm, successfully wrapping the handkerchief around his wrist. Siegfried believes she is skilled at it and finds that she has been helping her younger and older siblings, who are frequently injured. So this is nothing new to her. As she is about to leave first, he unexpectedly grabs Ariel, causing her to utter a bad word, which the prince does not understand and tries to repeat. She covers his mouth while explaining the word and changes the subject to if he finds her pretty, making him flutter and ordering her to leave quickly. That night, she dresses casually and prepares to sneak out again. She then goes to a pub to have a drink and realizes she forgot to bring her wallet. Just then, a pretty young man with white hair appears and offers to buy her a drink, but only if she agrees to be his chatting buddy for the evening. The young man's name is Killian Aprecion, and when he asks for Ariel's name, she accidentally exposes her real name but quickly changes it to Ella, which he simply combines and calls her Ariella. She recognizes him as not from the area because of his accent, when Killian discovers, well, actually her disguise while in town, that she is a maid of the Count, and he even mentions how the lady of the house is rumored to be really beautiful, as pretty as her. She is becoming wary of Killian, but she sarcastically asks him if he already has fallen for her looks. He continues and inquires about the guest who is currently staying at the Count's estate. Many people have expressed interest in her since she refers to herself as the estate's maid, but never to this extent. He then casually asks her whether she has a hidden tunnel she uses to get in and out of the estate because the security is so tight, leading her to believe that the guy is up to something. After their drinking session, he offers to escort her home, which she declines. Thankfully, he does not use any aggression and leaves her be. And just as they are about to part ways, Killian drops a scroll, which Ariel picks up, scans, and realizes something bad could happen if she flinches. So she ties it back, gives it to him, and runs away. She looks much more sober, wondering why Killian has a portrait of Siegfried. When she gets home, she quickly knocks on Siegfried's door and recalls that, according to her brother, Siegfried has lost all of his money and has borrowed some from someone before coming to their house. She has finally put two and two together and realized that Killian could be the loan shark from whom he borrowed money. Siegfried can't believe Arian wakes him up at 2 a.m. and tries to close his door, nearly hurting her. She quickly explains the situation regarding the man at the bar, but this only shows him that she's drunk, and he locks the door in her face. Well, her warning did not reach Siegfried successfully, so she goes back to her room. Now that she's sober, she realizes Killian did not even drink one glass when they were in the pub. She's thinking about this when she hears a strange sound, and Killian jumps into her window, puts his hand over her small face, shushing her. He seems harmless, so Ariel is not cautious of him. Both of them are surprised to find themselves in the same place when suddenly, guards start searching for an assassin. But by the time she realizes it's him, he's already leaped and escaped. She tells the knights where he goes and notices he's hurt because of the blood marks he left in her window. The next morning, she quickly looks for her brother to ask what happened last night and overhears Siegfried and her brother already discussing it. Since Siegfried is already aware of her listening in, she has no choice but to reveal the information she accidentally knows. After learning the assassin is her drinking buddy, her brother can't help but worry. She shares his name and describes what he looks like, while Siegfried apologizes for ignoring her warning. They all come to the same conclusion that Aisa is behind the plot to have him killed, while her brother offers to post extra guards to protect him. During their conversation, Ariel notices Siegfried smiling sweetly at the support he is receiving. Looks like someone is getting smitten. Her brother offers her extra guards as well, but Ariel turns them down because it will be harder for her to sneak around. But Siegfried persists, and she has little choice but to give in, at least until Killian is apprehended. And on top of that, she receives another thank you from him, which she teases him about. It's been 2 weeks since she's been staying home, and the boredom is really killing her. But that ends today, since the annual Eliprit Summer Festival has begun. It's a joyful event before the start of catching Salins, a legendary monster. Millard, her younger brother, walks into the room, and she thinks he's finally home after he gambles away all his money. We appear to have a gambling addict and a drunkard in the family. She doesn't pay any attention to him and instead looks at her maid, who is getting her disguise ready for the festival when Siegfried hears about it. She tries to invite him, but he hates noisy places while her older brother is busy. So she plans to find some handsome men on her way. Her older brother reminds her to bring bodyguards with her. Not that she has a choice, so off she goes. When she gets in town, the guards inform her that the party will begin in around 2 hours, giving her plenty of time to wander around. So she prepares to leave while informing her guards she'll only change in the tent. After changing, she escapes discreetly while her guards are distracted and leaves a note, giving her guards a headache. While she's walking, she finds more soldiers patrolling and even hears them looking for the prince, when she comes across men who seem really suspicious. From what she can tell, the sack the men are carrying contains neither powder nor anything of the sort. So she keeps following them when a hand slips out of the sack with the handkerchief she uses for the prince. There is no time to call for backups now. Plus, she must act quickly, otherwise she will miss them. While she's thinking of her rescue plan, she does not notice that Killian, who's on the rooftop, has already found her hiding. She waits for the men to go, and when they do, she discovers the main door is locked and jumps through the window. The room is filled with wooden granaries and dust, making it difficult for her to see, so she whispers to hear if anyone is there and discovers the prince all tied up. She gives him a whack on the head since he seems to have passed out, and it actually works, waking up the prince. All he remembers is going out to eat with Millard, and while she's untying him, she can't believe he accepts her younger brother's invitation while refusing hers. But in his defense, she only asked him once. Their conversation is cut short when Killian appears and reveals he has been hired by Aisa, who has paid him a big sum of money in exchange for his head. Siegfried alerts him that the Knights of Elipritz are on their way, but Killian laughs at him, revealing that he chose the location specifically because it is full of firewood and intends to burn him to death without a trace. He then calls Ariel to come to his side, since she is not included in his plans, and mentions that he actually likes her. Looking so handsome at that. Sir, please don't make us like you two. Ariel follows him so as not to provoke him, and then Killian throws oil all over the prince. Siegfried tries to bargain with him, asking how much Aisa has paid him and offering him 10 times that much. When he ascends to the throne, the diamond mines will be his, allowing him to confidently provide him 100-folds of what he currently receives. But Killian was unconvinced because there is no assurance he will become emperor. While he continues to speak, the prince gains enough time to untie the ropes and attack Killian with only Ariel's dagger. He is now faster and stronger than the last time she saw him training, which makes it hard for Killian to keep up with him. Killian admits defeat and agrees to act as the prince's assassin, but soon learns that the prince's earlier offer of 10 million was a bluff. Siegfried wants him under his wing and orders him to participate in the monster subjugation with him that will take place in 2 weeks. Did he just recruit the person who tried to kill him? Siegfried gives him a stern look, giving him a warning that he's only alive because of his mercy, forcing Killian to obey him. He then returns Ariel's dagger, and they both exit the storehouse when the knights, and especially Millard, who goes screaming towards the prince. He kneels down, apologizes, and notes the prince's disheveled appearance. He also notices his sister is with him, but she quickly makes up an excuse and takes him and the prince to the festival. She swiftly changes her attire and invites the prince to join her in eating and enjoying the festival. He can't believe she still wants to be with him after what happened. But Ariel's convinced that whatever happens, the prince will win. He still continues to worry, and she recalls what he said before and wonders if she needs to ask him how many times this time to get him to say yes, knowing that he truly wants to accompany her. He turns so red that he is exposed, but eventually caves in and follows her. Finally! They dine and discover exquisite stalls, but the place is becoming too crowded, and she notices Siegfried gradually falling behind and offers to hold hands with him. Our shy prince refuses and holds her sleeve instead, when Ariel grabs his hand and holds his wrist while they walk, making him really, really flush. Such a cutie. The two watch a puppet show, and she thinks he's still a kid for enjoying it. He then uses the chance to thank her for saving him today and for keeping it a secret from her family. He'll be leaving soon, so he doesn't want to worry the Ellipert's family. He knows that having them on his side will only put them in danger, but Ariel doesn't think the same way. Just like the other day, he would have ended up in a much worse situation if she hadn't found him, and tells him to ask for help when he's having trouble on his own, and reminds him that she's the daughter of one of the most prominent knights in the Empire, so she's not weak. And now we know why she is strong, and she jokes that a 15-year-old prince requires adult assistance. She appears confident as she tells him he can contact her at any time and she'll come running to help him, while he struggles to hide his flustered face while trying to glance at her. The next day, Millard keeps pestering her to have dinner with Baron Helix in exchange for paying off his debts, which irritates Ariel even more. Well, it's already perfect for her to get married, and if not the Baron, he asks for her ideal man when Siegfried appears, and she uses him as her excuse. Millard can't believe it since the two have a 5-year age gap. Okay, so to do the math, the prince is in his mid-teens while Ariel is already 20. Millard leaves in defeat while Ariel clarifies to the prince that everything she said was a lie. And he shyly agrees. But when she looks relieved, mentioning that she doesn't really prefer younger men, he is caught off guard and exclaims that he doesn't like older women either. LOL. It's been days, and the prince keeps avoiding her. But today, she finds him practicing with her older brother, Abuzian. So she approaches them and finds they are preparing for the upcoming monster subjugation. Her brother then gives her the wooden sword and tells the prince Ariel is actually far stronger than the knight they have. He wants to find out for himself and requests a sparring session with her. As soon as they begin, Ariel gets into offensive mode and can really predict his movements, which the prince finds strange. But when she's ready to land her fatal blow, she stumbles due to her heels. The prince lends his hand to help her while she teases him that she doesn't really prefer a younger boyfriend. And this time, he asks why. And all he receives is the same answer. She attempts to go first, but he holds her and tells her not to. Well, at least the bro can read the room and leave first. Ariel blushes at the prince's serious question about her ideal boyfriend. But he quickly explains that, as a noble, he must understand the preferences of a commoner. And then she gives him a rundown of all the qualities her ideal boyfriend should possess, which are very specific to him. He informs her that he is just curious and has no other motives, and he leaves her with an upset face. Every year, it is a tradition to gather southern nobles 2 days before their annual monster conquest. Ariel becomes preoccupied with arranging accommodations for the nobles visiting the mansion, and they gather for a final feast and celebrate the night. During the party, Ariel looks stunning in her red dress, attracting the attention of the guests, including Master Manuel, who approaches her and thanks her for her efforts in preparing the event. While they are talking, the prince walks in looking as dashing as ever, and when he catches sight of her with Master Manuel, his reaction changes. As the night progresses, Ariel informs Master Manuel that she should leave and wishes him goodnight while he takes the opportunity to ask her if she has plans for the next day. But before she could answer, the prince cuts them off and points on the exit way so he could leave. Ariel thinks the prince is drunk due to his behavior and is concerned because he's still a minor. She asks him who provided him alcohol and is surprised to learn that her brother Millard is to blame. She's ready to leave to see her brother when he grabs her and asks if Master Manuel isn't her type. With that, she loses her temper, telling him that she doesn't care about Master Manuel. The prince asks her to keep away from Master Manuel, but she tells him that they have been close since childhood. He's still murmuring phrases that she can't understand, so she touches him only to discover that he's already asleep. The next night, Ariel finds the nobles noisy. She looks at the prince in front of her and remembers how drunk he was the night before. She notices him talking to her brother and believes it's nice for him to establish a bond with her family members. Their gazes lock, but he swiftly moves his gaze away. Count Pereza then invites her for a walk, which she accepts, and the prince watches them as they leave. While outside, Ariel is enjoying the fresh air and ignoring the gentleman next to her when he suddenly kneels and offers marriage. He expresses how much he's looking forward to this day and has even thought about having kids with her. She discovers that her standards for her ideal groom are spreading throughout the South, and as a result, she receives numerous marriage proposals. But after meeting the prince, her standards change, and doesn't like it being so abrupt. Just then, the prince interrupts their moment from the window before she can react. He then demands Count Pereza cancel his marriage proposal because Ariel has already said she likes him, that he is the most beautiful and important person in the world, and that she cannot take her eyes off him. Ariel looks so done with him and is crying on the inside since rumors can spread so fast. While Count Pereza is confused, he asks her if everything is true, which she denies. But the prince continues talking about how Ariel tells him in front of her brother how much she likes him and dares to call her brother to testify. Such an actor! Broken-hearted, Count Pereza tells her to forget his proposal before fleeing. The next day, everyone is getting ready for the event, Subjugates the Beast, and notices the nobles are treating her like they always have, indicating that Count Pereza hasn't said anything yet. Suddenly, she spots Count Pereza, who immediately flees upon seeing her and the prince, who looks undeniably handsome, but emotionless. She thinks maybe he's still furious about yesterday's incident, and he completely ignores her, which surprises her. Someone is hitting puberty. As they gather, Killian, who looks great in his new suit, greets her. The prince has previously informed Abuzian about him, who initially objects but later finds him useful in the prince's war against Aesa. But she still doesn't trust him because he's into power and money, and she's afraid he'll stab them in the back, so she decides to ignore him and ask him to back off. Killian intends to stick around her since she's the only person he knows, and he believes they'll get along. After all, they are drinking buddies. Ariel is overjoyed that they will arrive at Corte Village the next day because she is looking forward to eating the Corte Village grapes, which is the reason she joins the event. She is carrying Abuzian's meal with her so they can eat together when she sees the prince with him. She still hates how the prince acted last night, so she decides to join the other nobles instead. They warmly welcome her, but while eating, the nobles start to pry on her love life, and she soon regrets her decision to join the group. Exhausted from all the attention, she decides to settle in a quiet spot where Killian is seated, but he misinterprets her presence and begins to tease her. They continue on their way, and Ariel uses Killian as her shield to keep the nobles away while the prince keeps a close eye on them till they get to their destination. Everyone is busy unpacking when a boy approaches her and insists that she follow him. She is skeptical that the prince is behind it, but she lets the kid know that she has no reason to follow. But the boy still insists, so she decides to see him in an hour to clear things between them. She really has no idea why he keeps acting like a brat around her, while the prince questions her for being so close with Killian. Seeing where this is going, she informs the prince that she knows it's normal for him to develop a crush on her, but that she doesn't like it. He denies it and starts to act all cute, telling her he really just wanted to help her yesterday. And our girl almost falls for it. All she wants is to meet and marry her ideal man, but Siegfried keeps shooting her suitors away. In his reasoning, he doesn't like to imagine her marrying someone else. That's when she realizes maybe the prince really likes her and asks if he's trying to propose to her. He looks really nervous and wants to confirm if she'll accept his feelings, and he receives an immediate no from Ariel. The prince is really persistent, but she still keeps pushing him away. Yes, baby boy, you're still a minor. Even though Ariel feels nothing for him, he makes sure she knows he won't give up on her until her feelings change. They're both really honest about it, which I appreciate. After hurting his feelings, it appears that the prince will not stop anytime soon, causing her some concern. Then she recalls the novel's timeline that following the prince's victory with their monster conquest, he'll soon leave for the war in the east, and then the battle for the throne will begin. Because of this, she chooses to let him be since they really don't have much time together. The next day, she notices that the nobles are becoming anxious. This is because, while Sailens rarely murder people, they can certainly injure them. Sailens are magical creatures that have the face of a human and the body of a bird and have extremely sharp claws. It's a pain in the neck to fight them because they're known to seduce people if you look into their eyes or listen to their tunes. After a while, Abuzion gathers them, and they are on their way to hunt Sailens. So Ariel tries to give the prince some advice, as this would be his first hunt, but he never looked her way. Well, she already knows he's powerful, so it's not like it's a big deal. When they arrive where the Sailens reside, Abuzion warns the prince that the Sailens have the ability to show illusions once charmed, which is not a problem for the prince. They only walk for a while before they come upon Sailens, who are waiting to hunt them as well. The monsters let out a deafening scream, signaling the start of some action. Our girl has no trouble slaying monsters or assisting other nobles, but she gets worried when she recalls that in the novel, Siegfried will undoubtedly be hypnotized by the monster. She searches for the prince, and there she finds him under the illusion. It's pointless. The prince can't hear her anymore, so she pins him to a big boulder, and this time, she gives him not a whack, but a really crispy slap. I really thought she was going to kiss him there, but that will surely work. Well, the slap did leave a bruise on his face, but he thanks Ariel for saving him when she herself becomes a victim of the illusion. She sees an adult version of the prince looking very handsome, and the tiny beauty mark makes him more attractive. Fortunately, she realizes she's in an elusive state as the prince shakes her nonstop and she becomes embarrassed, recalling how manly he is in the illusion. The prince wonders what she saw, and that's when she remembers that legend has it that Sailens shows people their ideal type during illusions, which means someone is confused. She plans to keep it a secret until she dies, whereas the prince just admits he saw her. She tries to avoid the subject and reminds him that they should go back to their positions. And so they continue slaying Sailens for a while now. But Siegfried surely has the most kills. While she observes him, she begins to wonder why his adult version appears in her illusion, and tries to recall whether Ariel loved the prince in the original novel. She brushes her thoughts aside for the time being and rushes to aid injured nobles when she hears someone screaming. She follows the familiar voice and finds Count Pereza in danger. She skillfully throws her sword at the Sailene, killing it instantly and saving the Count. She immediately tends to his wound, wrapping a bandage around his shoulders while he keeps glancing at her, but draws a line since he knows she already likes someone, the prince. And despite her protests, Pereza is totally convinced that she has feelings for the prince. She then hears the prince crying out in pain as she argues with the Count, but she knows he's simply imitating Pereza. So, as someone who has to help the wounded, she approaches him and irritably checks on his condition. All the while, he plays it sweet by telling her how much the slap hurts. She admits that she could not control her strength at the time and expresses her guilt. And in exchange, he wants to be treated by her since he also wants a reward for his relentless killing, which she accepts. She uses a handkerchief and treats his cheek when a Sailens sneaks up behind them to attack. He swiftly carries her and kills the monster with a single slash before letting go of Ariel as he realizes their position. She admits he looks cool, but then catches him looking gloomy as he looks at the now dirty handkerchief they used. So she begins to tease him that regrettably, that is the end of his reward. Since he doesn't respond, she gives into her feelings of pity and agrees to do whatever he wants as a reward, thus restoring his joy. He points to the left side of his face, and surprisingly, she complies and kisses his cheek. Okay, I'll wait until you're of legal age so I can ship you two. He seems content while she chooses to see him as a puppy rather than a man in order to put her mind at ease. After all, their time together is limited. The first day of subjugation succeeds, and most of the nobles express gratitude to the prince for saving their lives. And Ariel knows these nobles will fight beside him against Aisa later in the novel. While they are having a feast, Ariel excuses herself first to sleep, but her puppy is stopping her when Pereza steps in and says that Ariel has overworked her body today, so she should really rest. Well, Pereza is right, so the prince lets go of her hand and glares angrily at the count. She comes out of her room in the middle of the night to see the prince bickering with Pereza. The prince, who is still acting very childish, warns Pereza not to associate himself with Ariel. While the count claims he was only trying to help Ariel earlier, since the prince keeps holding on to her without first looking at her condition. I'm siding with Pereza here. Before the prince can say anything else, Ariel, who has been listening, quickly covers his mouth while Pereza apologizes and leaves, which leads to another misunderstanding. She voices her displeasure at the prince's behavior, while he argues that the count is incorrect and that he has been looking at her all the time. Ariel freezes. She'd be pleased if someone her age told her this now, but hearing it from the prince is agonizing. Same girl, same. Their conversation ends when the prince wonders why she's already up. Well, she's actually hungry, so she invites him out of courtesy, which he accepts. While they eat, she remembers his first impression of her and asks whether his stomach still aches or feels nauseated when he's with her. Our boy is known for his honesty, so he confesses that the reason his stomach hurts at the time is because he likes her, but she just laughs it off. She continues to dismiss his feelings by telling him his explanation is uninteresting, making him upset and leave. After that night, they fought Salines for 3 days, and Siegfried has been avoiding her ever since. And on the 4th day, they announced the success and end of the subjugation, thanks to the help of the prince. Everyone begins to celebrate and gather around the prince, while Killian approaches our girl and requests a dance, which she flatly declines. Killian is so excellent at making Ariel feel awful that she gives in and agrees to dance with him for once. But just as she's ready to take his hand, a blade flies right next to him. You guessed it, our puppy, who has been avoiding her, has not become any less possessive. Killian realizes it's not a good idea to upset him, so he vanishes, leaving the two behind. No one said anything, so Ariel starts the talk by telling him he's being rude to Killian. In the prince's defense, they still can't trust him because he was under Ais's control not long ago. She then opens up about how he's been avoiding her and how they have little time left together to continue fighting, which confuses the prince. But if that is the case, he believes Ariel will eventually forget about him and spend her days in peace, which will make her happier. Now that she thinks about it, her days will most likely return to their typical boring routine of daily chats with her maid, brothers, and marriage proposals to read. So she assures him that he is someone she will never forget. And besides, they can write letters any time. But all of this seems like a farewell to him, so again he leaves. She follows him in town till she sees him approached by a noble who keeps rambling about the Empress's death, and the prince reclaiming the throne will start a fire, which Ariel knows is a really sensitive topic for him. He simply walks away, and Ariel tries but fails to catch up with him after bumping into someone. The next day, the grapes she's been waiting for finally arrive, and she plans to share them with the prince. She cheerfully informs him about the grapes as she waits outside his room, but he pays little attention to her. Outside the forest, Siegfried is resting on the grass when Ariel once again joins him. She sits alongside him and appreciates the serenity, but not for the prince, who, according to the novel, will immediately head to the Eastern Front to fight after assisting in the subjugation of monsters. She unconsciously cheers him up for the next war, which puzzles the prince once again. Fortunately, she is able to swiftly come up with an excuse, claiming that since the East is currently struggling with invaders, she believes he will head there. Even so, the prince still worries since there's no guarantee he'll come back alive. Plus, Aisa will be using this perfect time to get rid of him, and he feels frustrated with the nobles who are passing all responsibilities to him. They remain silent for a time, but she encourages him not to get distracted by his fears and to focus on what is in front of him. She then becomes enraged as she thinks of all the nobles who are simply watching from the sidelines rather than supporting a 15-year-old prince, and she advises him not to listen to them. However, he can't help but fear since he has nothing left. His mother died, and he has no place in the palace, making her really worried. She intends to tell him something, but her conscience tells her not to. But in the end, it's as if her lips have their own mind and proclaim that he can be her husband after 5 years. The three of us are surprised. Well, yes, including me. She quickly explains she'll be with him so he won't have to endure alone. but only after he becomes an adult and then apologizes for taking his confession last time lightly. Siegfried is now looking more confident and asks her to wait for his proper proposal when the right time comes, while she smiles at him, ready to give him a chance. Finally, Ariel can savor her favorite grapes while the prince enjoys watching her eat. She almost chokes when the prince brings up the subject of what she saw in her illusion before, but she doesn't give a clear answer, making him even angrier just thinking about whoever her illusion man is. She merely states that she saw her ideal man, but he declares that no other man is more attractive than him, with which Ariel completely disagrees. Since she saw his adult Whoops, she almost said it, but it looks like the prince has already caught on. The next day, as she begins to pack her belongings, Kavil, the owner of the Corte farm, knocks on her door and announces that she is now the owner of the vineyard, making her jaw drop. He shows her the deed and wants her to sign it, and the only person she can think of who would spend that much money on her is the prince. She interrupts his meeting, still can't believe he bought her a vineyard without telling her, and refuses to accept it. The prince is confused by her rejection. He has spent all night considering what she wants. He asks hesitantly if his efforts are too much for her, making her feel sorry. Well, these two are forgetting that people are in the room. Since everyone in the room persuades her to accept the prince's present, she ends up signing the document that makes her the owner of the Corte vineyard. After that, she notices a shift in how the nobles treat her, and according to one noble, they can see how well the prince and her get along during the event. As they make their way out of the forest, Ariel senses something unsettling and begins to pay closer attention to their surroundings, while the prince only focuses his attention on her. Soon after, Ariel's intuition is confirmed when arrows begin to fly, primarily directed at the prince. A trap has been set for them, and everyone gathers to protect the prince, including Ariel, while the prince is having a hard time calming his horse. Ariel deflects every arrow aimed at him, and it turns out our girl isn't only a swords expert, but she's an archer as well. However, they are outnumbered, and she realizes escaping is their best option when she spots an assassin lurking behind the prince and shoots an arrow in his direction. There isn't time to warn the prince, so she catches the approaching arrow with her bare hand, saving him, but wounding her palm in the process. That is some quick reflex from our girl. Surprised by the attack, the prince's horse bolts and rushes away, so Abuzian orders Ariel to follow the prince while they take care of the assassin. The attackers are not strong enough for Abuzian and his team, and Killian identifies one of the assassins and confirms that he remembers meeting him at the Crown Prince Palace. They all believe that it is the work of the Crown Prince, who is after His Majesty Siegfried. Meanwhile, Ariel continues to search for the prince, and he emerges from the bushes where he falls from his horse. The prince is fine and is used to the Crown Prince's attacks, but he's been taken off guard today because he's been more laid back than usual. Well, it's more like your focus is always on Ariel. Moreover, it's the first time he's ever seen somebody catch an arrow, and he expresses concern for her hand. As the prince checks her hand, Abuzian arrives and feels relieved that both of them are safe, despite Millard's arm damage and the knights who were injured. They then decide to camp for the night in order to attend to all of the injured members. Ariel can't sleep inside her tent, so she goes outside and finds the prince sitting in front of the fire, looking troubled. Anxious by his looks, she asks him if he's really okay. It appears the prince is concerned that if the crown prince keeps on trying to kill him, the people around him will get involved and hurt, yet he cannot afford to be depressed every time this happens. That takes a lot of mental strength, and he is simply glad that no one has been hurt today. This has made him think that he should train harder to stand up to the crown prince and to protect his people. Hearing his thoughts makes Ariel realize that the prince is very mature for his age, and she's glad that's how he views his situation. They arrived in the nearby countryside with the intention of resting for a day, but because some knights were seriously injured, they decided to stay for a few more days to heal. The area is full of tourist attractions, so the prince asks Ariel to take a walk by the sea with him and hopes to see a doll play with her. She is so enamored with the sea that the prince notices her reaction and smiles when he sees how happy she is. He expresses that he wants to give her everything she desires to prove how much she means to him, but she explains that she doesn't need extravagant gifts. As long as it comes from the heart, she will accept it. He begins to elaborate more, but she cuts him off, stating that the doll play will be starting. They watch the play together, but he leaves in the middle of it, saying he needs to do something and will return soon. When the show ends without him, Ariel feels even more upset, but she calms herself by considering all the reasons for his absence, including the worst-case scenario that he was attacked again. He returns safely, but she demands an explanation while he leads her the way, saying he wants to show her something. They settle beside the street, and the prince hands her a box. He wants to give her the sea, but now that he understands she will not take it, he has carefully chosen a jewel to express his love. Siegfried would normally buy all of the gemstones for her, but she notices the necklace contains a red stone that matches her eye color, and appreciates how much he wants her acceptance. She accepts his gift and promises to care for it. When they get back to the inn, one of the knights hurries over to tell them that the vineyard burned down and no one survived. When they finally get to the Elipritz mansion, they talk about the fire and learn that it was a warning from the crown prince to Ariel's family for helping Siegfried. Ariel wishes to organize a funeral for the farm's family members, but they learn that all that is left of them are their ashes. The prince appears composed as he admits that it was his fault, accepts that what has happened cannot be undone, and resolves to protect the lives of those who are still living. At that moment, Ariel realizes the kid in front of her is going to be the future emperor. He is resilient and never panics when difficulties arise. Abuzian tells them that the crown prince has raised the amount they have to pay for their land. This puts pressure on the Elipritz family, which has always been neutral. The prince understands the situation and decides to leave for the Eastern Front to build up his strength, create power, and protect those around him and her. While writing a letter to the emperor, he notices her sad face and assures her that his departure has always been the plan, so she doesn't have to worry. Ariel has trouble sleeping that night, so she goes for a walk and unexpectedly encounters her sneaking brother Millard returning home and confronts him about his gambling habit. She spots something he's holding and tells her that a man gave it to him, and he has no idea what's inside it. She warns him not to take anything he doesn't know, and they both open it to see what's inside, but find it not special. He explains that the man introduces himself as a servant in the Imperial Palace, and he never thought that he would give him something strange. She has her doubts, but she lets him go before their older brother sees him. Ariel is ready to return to her room when she notices the prince standing in front of her door. She invites him in, but he hesitates since he believes it is inappropriate to enter her room late at night. He actually saw her strolling outdoors and believes that something is bothering her, so he wants to check on her. Our brave little prince goes inside her room and teases her that he already knows who she saw during the illusion, and that is the grown-up Siegfried. Busted! Even so, they must wait another 5 years before they can move on with their relationship. That's when she recalls that in the novel, Siegfried will fall in love with the main girl, and she starts to worry about all the waiting. Her thoughts are interrupted as their mansion begins to tremble, and when they go outside, they discover that a dragon has broken through their house. Millard cries to Ariel that the box actually contains a summoning stone and that the raging monster is what came out. The prince orders Millard to call Abuzian and instructs Ariel to bring him a sword while he holds off the monster. One of the maids is still in shock and unable to move, so Siegfried is forced to guard her, placing him at a disadvantage. Fortunately, Ariel arrives just in time to slash the beast while looking really awesome. Ariel throws the sword to him, and the prince quickly uses it against the dragon. It leaves several injuries to the monster, but the attacks are not fatal enough, fortunately. Abuzian and the knights arrive just in time. They chain the dragon, bringing it down, as Siegfried launches the final blow, killing the monster. Abuzian and the prince assess the situation and discover that the box Millard received from a royal attendant contains a summoning stone. There's no chance that was an accident, and the prince believes Aisa plotted it all. As everyone begins to leave the room, they fail to realize that the monster is only half dead and can still strike Ariel from behind. Millard is crying while Abuzian demands that the monster be removed when they hear Ariel. Of course, she's alive, but she's covered in blood, so her loving brother rushes to assist her, asking if she's hurt. Thankfully, she's quick enough to thrust the knife into the monster's mouth, so the bloodstains isn't hers but the monster's. With all the commotion happening, she notices the prince standing in the corner and finds him crying. He sounds so serious and tells her he can't afford to be with her. Reality suddenly hits him, and he realizes his path will be really difficult, and he can't afford to see her suffer because of him. and he is well aware of how weak he is, so his only option for now is to leave as soon as possible. Ariel, on the other hand, knows this is not the time to give him encouraging words, so instead, she gives him a warm hug, reminding him she'll always be with him. Aww. She wants him to know that no one is blaming him, and Abuzian agrees, inviting the prince to stay with them until he receives a reply from the Empire. Besides, he can't just run away from her now since he's the one who scared away all of her suitors. He calms down while Ariel wipes his tears. A sense of calm settles over their home after a few days, but she also notes the prince's growing gloominess. Millard, who is as cheerful as ever, invites the prince for a walk, but he ends up getting stomped on by Ariel and getting the cold shoulder from Abuzian. He's had enough of their treatment when they suddenly receive a knock from a royal knight. The knight casually walks in to escort Millard under the order of the crown prince. He announces that a treasure was stolen from the crown prince, and they have received a servant's confession that he handed it to the youngest son of the Elipritz family. Millard refuses because he has no idea the box belongs to the crown prince, but the knight is set about forcing him until Abuzian stops him. Even Siegfried starts to join their argument, saying that their arrest makes no sense since it takes a week to get from the Empire to the Elipritz estates, and the knight comes to investigate in just 2 days? This just means this again is all planned by Issa, while Millard starts to panic, yelling it's the servant's fault and not his. The knight is also losing his patience, but the prince intervenes before he becomes aggressive, and he guesses the crown prince has planned a condition. He's even ready to leave to the east and just waiting to hear from the emperor, which is exactly what the crown prince wants him to do. The knight delivers the crown prince's message that if he agrees to go to the battlefield, he will forgive and spare the Elipritz family, especially as Lady Ariel also appears as a possible crown princess candidate. Siegfried angrily accepts the condition, solving their problem for now while the knight leaves. Later that night, Ariel is out on a stroll when she spots the prince who is deep in thought, so she sits beside him. The prince is actually concerned that even Aissa is now interested in her. In addition to the men he met, there are other men who could steal her away from him. He stresses why he's born 5 years later than her, but he wants to be responsible and strong enough before he can confidently propose to Ariel. That's maturity over there. Ariel has no doubt that he will be stronger than the crown prince, which boosts his confidence. Then, he asks for Ariel's reassurance that she'll wait for his proposal when he returns, while Ariel humorously warns him not to bring along any other women. But the prince is dead serious as he gets closer to her and confesses she's the only one for him. Love sparkles around the two, and Ariel is torn between her feelings for him and her need to make the right decision when she unexpectedly receives a kiss on her cheek from the prince. Yes, that's the farthest you two can go. And the prince runs away, leaving Ariel, the girl who almost gave in. Girl, you need to pray. Anyway, the emperor's letter arrives after 2 days, granting him permission to set out to the east. The awaited day comes, and the four of them are having tea when Vanessa arrives to escort him on his journey. They exchange greetings, but Vanessa seems to not like the rumors he has with Lady Ariel. Ariel tries to calm down, but she already knows there's no guarantee that the nobles around them will accept whatever they have. To her surprise, the prince proudly confirms that Ariel is indeed his lover, well in the future. She spills her tea, embarrassed by how he just announces their, future relationship, which based on her is still uncertain. She never wanted to be linked to the royal family, so she put a line between them, but in the end, she fell for the second prince. Ariel feels defeated and shyly instructs him to write letters and take responsibility for blocking her marriage path since she'll wait for him, which the prince accepts. And so she waves him goodbye while feeling anxious and excited for the future. As time passed, her longing for the prince unexpectedly grew, and so she focuses her time on renewing the vineyards and occasionally making fun of her brother. And like the prince promised, he keeps sending her letters and writing about his accomplishments over the years. And before you know it, year 5 has arrived. Millard hands her the letter from the prince, and she can't quite believe that he would actually write to her consistently and enclose jewels each time. Her excitement grows as she reads the letter, and she grabs Millard before joyfully announcing the return of the prince. Yay! The wait is over! Siegfried's victory against the Western Kingdom, which had long been a threat to the Empire, has restored peace, substantially improving his status. He gained the favor of nobles, and word of this spread to the south, making her very happy. The prince will return to the palace as a war hero, and a banquet will be held to honor him, to which the Alupritz family will undoubtedly be invited. But while she is delighted to see the prince, she fears that she will have to face Aisa, who is known to be cruel in the novel. And when they get to the Empire, the first place she goes to is a dress shop, but as soon as the clerk learns her identity, she tells her that everything she buys is already paid for. She discovers that the payment is also in her name, so they have no means of knowing who the real person is. But she already has a suspicion that it is none other than the prince. Though she can't rule out Aisa, she dismisses the possibility and trusts Siegfried, so she happily shops. After she shops, she's greeted by Millard, who shares the rumors he heard at the casino that Siegfried's next target is the throne. Ariel has hazy recollections of the novel's events, but she does remember that Siegfried would be sitting on the throne, but she can't recall Aisa's future. The next day, the boys put on their best suits for the banquet, while Ariel wears a dress that is nothing short of breathtaking. When they arrive at the palace, she discovers a large number of young ladies gathering, since Aisa has said that he will officially select a crown princess to take attention away from the main event, which is Siegfried's welcoming party. Abuzian chats with some nobles while Millard is busy eating, leaving her alone with no one to talk to, when Lady Lanesha approaches her. The lady appears to recognize her, which is due to rumors about Ariel's relationship with the second prince, and offers to assist during the event. She seems kind. Or is she? Ariel is able to chat with the other ladies thanks to Lady Lanesha when she notices the other table. She notices the redhead lady purposely placing a wine glass near another girl, expecting that the latter will knock it over and spill its contents down her gown. The innocent lady apologizes and bows, but the attention-seeking lady demands that she kneel, which is excessive. So Ariel steps in, but this has been cut off when Crown Prince Aisa arrives. This is her first meeting with Aisa, and she is taken aback by how attractive he is. According to the novel, the Crown Prince is the guy she is supposed to marry, so she really needs to be careful not to run into him alone. And when they announce Siegfried will be late, she decides to stay on a terrace, contemplating how to greet him when they meet, when a young noble starts to hit on her. The young man starts to mock the prince, thinking she'll give him a chance, but finally, after 5 long years, the best at shooing Ariel's suitors away has shown himself. The prince is now all grown up and looking so fine. I can finally ship them in peace. When the prince greets her, Ariel doesn't respond with a hug or an I miss you, but rather questions his identity, convinced that the adorable young Siegfried can't possibly be this guy standing before her. The prince scares the young man first until he leaves the terrace before continuing their conversation. Now that she can see him up close, he definitely seems mature, and she's not sure if she can still make him blush or joke around with him as he has changed a lot. He then formally greets Ariel. He drops to one knee to kiss the back of her hand, making her blush. She misses him so much and is glad to see him return safely, but she wonders why he's outside. He is actually looking for her so he can make his grand entrance with her, and the couple is warmly welcomed by the nobles. However, as soon as they walk down the stairwell, the crown prince approaches Ariel and invites her to a dance. Because of the attention on her and the fact that he's the crown prince, she has no choice but to accept his hand, or else it will cause trouble later. She looks really sad because today is meant to be her first day with Siegfried, but even the prince can't do anything about it. They've moved to the spotlight, and Aisa starts to hold her, which she really hates. So she decides to close her eyes while she endures a dance with him. Our couple's perfect night has just been destroyed by the crown prince. Dancing with the crown prince breaks her heart, but she is powerless to stop it. The crown prince has always seen her as his future queen, and despite our girl's best efforts at playing dumb, he is not finished flirting with her. When she trips, he pulls her closer to him and tightly holds her hands to make her feel his strength. And he blatantly asks her if she wants to be his crown princess, but she immediately turns him down. And he notices how quickly she answers, as if she's been waiting for the opportunity to reject him. And they continue to dance silently. She feels relieved when the music stops and she sees an upset Siegfried reaching his hands to hers, while the crown prince just keeps annoying them. Ariel begins to sweat as she finds herself in the center of the prince's argument, but thankfully, Aisa leaves. Finally! The couple then prepares to dance, and she wonders if he knows how to waltz, which he proudly confirms to impress her. Here comes the dance I've been waiting for, and the two of them look really lovely together. While dancing, Ariel notices that being closer to him now seems different than it did before, and when she sees his disturbed expression, she asks him if it's because she danced with the crown prince. He's still as honest as ever and tells her that it makes him incredibly jealous and suggests that she should not hang around his brother. First of all, she doesn't have any intentions of dancing with Aisa, but simply cannot refuse him. And Siegfried shows the same jealous face as when he was young and assures her that it will not happen again. He smiles warmly when Ariel starts to worry if he intends to harm the crown prince. After all this time, she finally got to see a smile again, and it reminded her that certain things never change. It gives her some comfort to know that the young prince who used to be jealous of her and long for her affection still exists. When the music ends, he invites her to the terrace to avoid any unneeded interruptions, but on their way, Lady Claire stops them to express her thanks to Prince Siegfried. Hearing them converse, Ariel wonders who the lady is, given that he has just returned from war. He introduces Ariel to Lady Claire of House Marina, telling her they met near the border. She immediately recognizes Ariel and expresses gratitude to her for preventing her from being bullied before the party even began. However, our girl is more concerned about how the lady knows Prince Siegfried. So the lady shares that during the peak of the border invasions, she was taken as a prisoner of war and Prince Siegfried arrived to rescue the prisoners. Looking at Lady Claire, a noble lady of innocence and pure beauty, Ariel believes she is the female heroine of the original story. Before Siegfried departed for the war 5 years ago, she told herself that if he brought home the female lead, she would do everything she could to sabotage their relationship. She's only joking about it, but she can't believe it's really happening right in front of her eyes. She knows the female lead will appear someday, but why does it have to be today? Because it's too early to tell, Ariel is still unsure if Lady Claire is the female protagonist. Confused, she decides to take some time by herself to collect her thoughts. Prince Siegfried is startled as she walks away from them and is about to go after her when someone grabs his hand. The one who stops him is his uncle, Duke Blanche, who has been aiding him since he was a child, so he can't truly disrespect him, but his thoughts, though, are on Ariel. That night, Ariel still keeps on thinking about Lady Claire. Her appearance is making things complicated for her, and on top of that, she looks deeply in love with Siegfried. She becomes enraged, wondering what Siegfried did to make Lady Claire fall in love with him. But then she recognizes that her own behavior is strange, as she previously pushed him away and now wonders whether she actually fell for him just because he's now dashing and manly. As she slaps herself to pull herself together, she hears a knock on her door. It's her eldest brother, Abuzian, just checking on her after she went home early and sharing that Prince Siegfried was looking for her. She seems gloomily convinced that Lady Claire is right next to him, keeping him company. And since he's been invited, he asks Ariel to join him for the tea party, hosted by Countess Ilia, and then he leaves. Ariel can't sleep that night as she keeps remembering Siegfried's flustered face when he looked at Lady Claire earlier and believes he's a jerk. The fact that he brings a girl after promising she's the only one makes her angry, especially after he calls her suitors leeches and tries to get rid of them all. Our girl is really overthinking the situation and plans to make him pay if he chooses Lady Claire over her. This is the first time we've seen our girl jealous. She feels exhausted the next day at the tea party, and even though she tries to conceal her dark circles with makeup, she still appears tired. When someone asks her to take a seat in front of her, she simply responds without looking at the person. But to her surprise, the voice sounds familiar, and it's a Lady Claire smiling at her and saying she's glad to see her again. They feel awkward for a minute, but Lady Claire speaks to her first, informing her that she came to the tea party to meet her. Ariel laughs nervously, believing that the lady, whom she thinks is the female lead, will tell her to leave Siegfried. Lady Claire believes she has caused some misunderstanding after Ariel ran away last night, but Ariel quickly denies it. The lady continues to explain that she merely wants to repay the prince since he saved her life. But while she's speaking, Ariel notices her blushing cheeks and thinks she's really in love. Ariel stays calm and inquires as how she intends to repay Siegfried, and Lady Claire is hoping to discuss it with her since she is the prince's lover. The lady looks sad when she asks if Ariel ever plans to marry Prince Siegfried someday, and if she does, she plans to enter the palace as a maid so she can repay the prince for saving her life, and so she can see him frequently. They are still talking when Ariel notices a sudden commotion and a not-so-happy prince approaches her from behind. Ariel is surprised to find Siegfried at the tea party and asks him what brings him there. But instead of answering, he asks her if she has anything to say to him and why she left the party without telling him. Just when she's about to respond, Lady Claire interrupts them to greet the prince. He smiles weirdly and greets her back, while Ariel observes the lady's gloomy face and decides to leave to give them some privacy, which confuses Siegfried again. Siegfried pursues Ariel, wondering why she keeps ignoring him while she pretends she has no idea what he means. He knows she is definitely avoiding him and is desperate to know why. At that point, she is unsure what to say. She is convinced that Claire is the female lead, so it's only appropriate for her to give them some space. But for some reason, she doesn't want to. And if she says anything now, it will be evident that she is jealous. She did not answer him and plans to go to a woman's area only so he won't follow her. Our guy is starting to get worried, and so he asks her if it's because of Lady Claire. She pauses for a moment and finally reveals that she is exactly the reason. But he assures her that there's nothing between them. Ariel shares that Lady Claire seems very eager to even enter his palace as a maid just to see him. No worries, problem solved. Siegfried has already shut out Lady Claire from his palace, which makes Ariel panic even more since Lady Claire could be his real partner in this novel. She sighs and urges him to talk about it later. When she turns around, he blocks the path and demands they resolve whatever's bothering her. It's been a while since they've seen each other, so he doesn't want to waste any more time, just because she misunderstands his intentions, and asks her to stop getting the wrong idea. His words are making her blush, and Siegfried uses his chance to give her a hug, which is exactly what he wanted to do the moment he saw her. She holds him back and finally stops thinking and starts to feel giddy. Since Siegfried has returned, she has realized that their time together is always interrupted by others. He stares at her and begins kissing her forehead and kissing her non-stop. He misses her so much that he wants her even more. But this cute moment gets interrupted again when they catch Lady Claire staring. Ariel is so embarrassed that she pushes him away, while the lady, who appears to be hurt, apologizes for disturbing them before running away. Ariel considers explaining to her, so she tries to catch up to her, leaving Siegfried behind. Thankfully, the lady stops, and just as Ariel is ready to clarify things, she realizes there's nothing to explain since Claire already knows that Siegfried and her are lovers. This is only her conscience telling her she's stealing the female lead's role from the original. However, she knows the story has already veered off course since she met Siegfried. She has decided that she will not let anyone destroy her relationship with the prince. She looks determined now to confront the lady when Claire, who sounds serious and sad, reveals that she's not in love with the prince, but with her. Plot twist, everyone! This is not anything that our girl expects to hear from the lady at all. Ariel is unsure if she's hearing her correctly, which is causing her much confusion right now. And Lady Claire can sense this. So the lady bravely confesses that it all started during the ball, when Ariel stepped in to save her from publicly embarrassing herself in front of the nobles who had set her up. At that very moment, Claire's heart began to flutter for Ariel. But after learning that she is with the second prince, she dared not confess her feelings to her. Oh, we could spin this into a completely new story! Anyway, Ariel remains baffled, but is slowly starting to make sense of Claire's confession. It would appear that her behavior towards Siegfried all this time was simply her expressing gratitude, and that she is the one the lady fell in love with at first sight. Yet, she still needs reassurance from Claire that she doesn't feel anything for the prince. And she gets it when Claire switches her expressions and explains that the prince is not her type, and that the time he saved her is not so heart-fluttering. Given his stern attitude toward others, Ariel can only imagine how awful the prince must be while assisting the lady. Then, an enraged Siegfried appears because now he has to shoo away not only men but women as well. He is annoyed by her lovely act toward Ariel, but this bold lady grins and explains that all she wants is to clear the air between her and Ariel, which has nothing to do with him. After learning that Claire has spent her entire time in the capital in a hotel, Ariel extends an offer to her manor, which is eagerly accepted by Claire. She wants to make amends for misinterpreting the lady by doing this. Plus, she's also bored. Though I appreciate that our boy did not strongly object to Ariel's decision, the annoyance in his face is still visible. And Claire isn't trying to hide how she feels about him either. She reveals that the prince carried her like a sack of potatoes while saving her before, and then they bicker some more. By the look of it, Ariel is now convinced that these two are mortal enemies. Now that she knows Claire is not the protagonist, she wonders whether the true one will surface, or if there's absolutely no female lead in the story. Either way, she is relieved she does not have to stay away from her prince. She's now back in her place with Claire when a maid hands her an invitation from the Crown Prince. An invitation to prepare for the selection of the Crown Princess, which makes her remember that in the original novel, she was the Crown Prince's fiancé. But that has changed now that she is with our handsome prince. How could he invite her knowing she's with Siegfried? But now that she thinks about it, there's no reason for her to refuse the invitation given she's still officially single since the prince and her aren't engaged. After deciding to go, the maid gives her another gift, but this time it is from Prince Siegfried. It's a stunning ruby brooch with a tiny note expressing his delight at seeing her again, making her blush. She plans to wear it during the Crown Princess selection to show the Crown Prince that she's already taken. When Ariel and Claire finally make it to the palace, they are taken aback by the stunning appearance of all the ladies. Clearly, these women have their sights set on the Crown Princess position. One lady approaches her, curious as to why she's there, and in response, she explains that she's not taking part in the selection but is required to come since she's been invited. She then greets Lady Lanesha, and just like the other lady, she asks Ariel the same question. She looks somehow relaxed around the lady and tells her she just got invited out of courtesy and will just go home in a while. Ariel asks Lanesha if she plans to take part in the selection for real, but before she can respond, they announce the arrival of the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince welcomes everyone, and despite how everyone finds this man attractive, Ariel listens to him with boredom. So to start the selection, he announces that he actually hid a gem in the hall and explains it is an imperial heirloom handed down for generations through his mother, the late Empress's family, and whoever finds it will become his bride. To give the ladies a hint, he reveals the gem's color, which is a unique, bloody red. Ariel, on the other hand, cannot believe that the Crown Prince is using a treasure hunt game to select his Crown Princess. So while the other girls are scrambling around, Ariel and Claire are contentedly munching on snacks. However, Ariel can feel that she's being watched by the Crown Prince, even though she is turned away from him. And even Claire is getting nervous with the way he glares in their direction. So Ariel chooses to continue their snack outside the balcony. Now that they are alone, Ariel completely forgot to ask Claire whether she wants to participate in search for the jewel. But she is surprised at how wise the lady is. Claire is aware that even if she obtains the treasure, she will never be accepted as Crown Princess since her family has fallen into ruins. Having a powerful political family is one of the most crucial qualifications for becoming a Crown Princess. So Ariel is really suspicious that the selection process is flawed. Ariel is eager to head back home after the two have finished their meal, but they are unable to do so since the competition is still ongoing. As she waits impatiently for the announcement that the jewel has been found, she decides to take a peek inside, only to be taken aback by the sight of the Crown Prince. What a creep! Ariel quickly composes herself to greet him, while Claire does the same. The Crown Prince recognizes Lady Claire and begins to humiliate her family for being of no use to the Empire. Worse, he bluntly told her that Siegfried should not have wasted his time saving someone as useless as her. He then approaches Ariel, lifts her face, and warns her that Siegfried will never become emperor and that he plans to kill him once he ascends to the throne, emphasizing that she should choose wisely. He really thinks he can win Ariel by doing this, but she rejects him right away and doesn't have the right qualifications to be Crown Princess either. But this guy has already planned everything all along, and the brooch wasn't even Siegfried's gift. He removes it from her dress and reveals that it is the gem everyone is looking for. You can see the fear on Ariel's face as she realizes that the gift was from him, but the Crown Prince laughs and denies it. He orders everyone to gather in the hall while he forcefully grabs Ariel back inside. He announces that the little game has come to an end since someone has already found the jewel, and then reveals Ariel to everyone as the guards restrain her. Lady Lanesha and the others can't believe Ariel is interested in marrying the Crown Prince, especially when they all know that Prince Siegfried is her lover. Speaking of the prince, Siegfried enters the hall and demands an explanation from his brother. And this creep proudly presents Ariel as his bride, which our girl quickly opposes, saying that she did not find the jewel on her own, but that it was actually a gift from Siegfried. This confuses the prince since he never gave her one. But luckily, Ariel did not throw away the gift box and the note, which will serve as proof that it was from Siegfried. And Claire will be able to testify that Ariel was indeed on the balcony for the entire treasure hunt. Siegfried then requests that his brother show him this particular jewel, and while looking at it, he recalls that the jewel comes from the Crown Prince's mother, implying that Aisa is the only one who has access to it, proving that he did not send the jewel to Ariel. Aisa is still acting blind, but our smart girl cornered him by demanding he show them the exact place where he hid the jewel. A question the Crown Prince would not be able to answer since the ladies have already explored the entire hall, and if he pinpoints a spot where the ladies have already searched, he would be exposed. Aisa ignores her and then turns his ire towards Siegfried for being so easily blinded by a girl who desires to become the crown princess, and will abandon him one day, as if Siegfried would believe him. Siegfried sees through Aisa's dirty tricks, and these are all just to ruin his reputation by stealing his girl. The ladies start to question the crown prince's motives when they realize the entire selection could be nothing but a charade. Siegfried is willing to bring this into the court, which does not sit well with the crown prince because all of the ladies are daughters of high-ranking nobles. And if it is discovered that Aisa is playing with them, their families will not stand for it. The crown prince has no choice but to let go of Ariel and stop the commotion, and will reconsider who to choose as his bride. Ariel dashes over to a concerned Siegfried and receives a scolding from him. Then he inquires if his brother mentioned anything to her and discovers that Aisha had repeatedly warned her to keep away from him. He's starting to believe the whole selection is for Ariel, which is driving him insane. And our guy is so smart to not waste the chance to use the situation to get closer to her. So he blushingly invites her to his palace to protect her. Not just that, he honestly tells her to take the relationship to the next level. Ariel is taken aback by Siegfried's boldness in inviting her to his palace. She is getting a little hot just trying to figure out what he meant by moving their relationship to the next level. While she's doing some deep pondering and trying to take it all in, she almost hits the wall behind her, and Siegfried reaches out and pulls her closer to him in an effort to charm our girl. Well, it can't be helped. She's really falling for Siegfried, and it's surely the safest place from Aisa. The prince is even willing to take her now, not giving a care with so many nobles watching them being all lovey-dovey, so she has no choice but to accept. However, one thing that isn't in Siegfried's plan is for Ariel to bring Claire to his palace with her. LOL, this is going to be chaotic. They've arrived at his palace, and Ariel is curious about where they'll be going. To her surprise, he takes her to her very own lavish suite. Everything in the room is glistening, and Siegfried tells her with great pride that he has done everything especially for her. While she is stunned by the lavish surroundings, Siegfried shyly asks if she would like to spend the night in the room, leaving her dumbfounded. Our guy is really taking his chances right here and right now, even if Lady Claire can hear them clearly. This is it. She's definitely sure this is what he means by taking the relationship to the next level. Ariel teases him since it looks like the boy who refused to hold his hands with her before is a grown man now. He blushes, but is still waiting for her answer. Ariel actually plans to refuse since it's only been 3 days since they reunited, and this is just going too fast. However, Siegfried asks again, this time with his puppy face, making her weak. And before she realizes it, she agrees to the idea. Thanks to his plan, the mere sight of his lips makes her start thinking naughty thoughts. Lady Claire interrupts him and believes she'll be staying in the palace as well since Ariel is staying, which Siegfried immediately refuses. Siegfried claims he doesn't have a spare room for her, so the lady decides to sleep with Ariel, which solves their problem. It appears like Claire has no intention of leaving Ariel's side, so Ariel relaxes, knowing that it might be impossible for her and Siegfried to spend any time alone. Afterwards, she plans to inform Abuzian that she'll be staying at the prince's palace, though she won't have to because Siegfried has already invited Abuzian to his place for a meeting. Now that is settled, she anticipates a restful stay at this point, but Siegfried keeps trying to seduce her. There's a time when he pretends to be helping her put on a necklace as an excuse to touch her. Or he would call her to his room while he's half naked, making it harder to resist. Temptation keeps coming to her. The evening of Abuzian's arrival at his palace has come. He's a bit confused with the prince's invitation, and so with a serious face, they enter a room where Siegfried introduces him to his fellow comrades, nobles who pledge to side with him against Aisa and the close supporters of his mother. All of them promise to help Siegfried claim the throne. Siegfried expresses gratitude to Abuzian for the aid his family provided him 5 years ago, when he was still a helpless young prince. But now he has matured and he has the strength to stand up to Aisa's oppression. This time, he addresses Abuzian's title as Count Elifritz to formally ask him to back him in his war against the crown prince. However, Siegfried had no idea that Abuzian would still want to maintain his stance of political neutrality. Don't get him wrong. He believes Prince Siegfried is the rightful heir to the throne and would be a great ruler. Plus, it would secure Ariel's future. But if he supports him, the Elifritz family, which rules over the majority of the southern territory, will force their allied houses to become enemies with the crown prince. Unless the crown prince threatens to hurt his family, he cannot afford to change his position now, especially since this battle is not entirely winnable. Wait until he learns that Aisa has been harassing his baby sister. Abuzian completely refuses the prince's offer, hoping he will understand. Meanwhile, Ariel cannot sleep that night since Siegfried promised to see her but still hasn't shown up. While Claire is sleeping soundly beside her, Ariel decides to go out and check on him when he appears just in time. Siegfried is surprised to see her still awake and wonders if she's waiting for him, which annoys her, guessing he forgot his promise to have a sleepover. He blushes as he assures her that he hasn't forgotten, and that it is something he's been looking forward to. But tonight, he needed some air. That's when Ariel senses something has happened, but Siegfried tries to cover it up by teasing her and telling her they should sneak out next time away from Claire. He gives her a warm embrace and promises to do everything it takes to keep her safe so they will never have to be apart. Like when they were younger, she wants to know what happened, but she knows better than to pry now that she understands he has issues he can't talk about with anyone. However, she has never seen him this anxious before, so she hugs him back, reassuring him that she will never leave his side. They hugged there for a time, not saying a word. The following day, she and Claire pack up to depart the palace without waking Prince Siegfried. People who watch her leave the prince's palace speculate on her next-level relationship with him. While in the carriage, Claire worries that others will misunderstand Ariel and begin spreading rumors, despite the fact that nothing actually happened. This is probably for the best, as it makes it less likely that Aisa will be so bold as to invite her to another crown princess selection. But our girl is wrong. As soon as she arrives at their manor, she receives another invitation from the crown prince. Aisa is throwing another ball tonight to mark the success of the empire and to make amends for the crown princess selection party. Millard is tired of the empire's party after party, while Abuzian can only sigh because this is most likely the crown prince's way of bragging about how great the empire is doing. Ariel has no excuse to reject the invitation since this isn't an ordinary ball, but all nobles in the empire have been invited. After a few hours, she receives a letter from Siegfried confirming that they should attend. The red outfit looks beautiful on Ariel, while the suit looks great on the prince. And before they enter the palace, he advises her to never leave his side as a precaution in case the crown prince will attempt to do something again. But she is convinced that the crown prince would not do anything after what had happened yesterday. And many nobles who saw her leaving Siegfried's palace that morning have circulated stories about them. If he continues to approach her when everyone knows what's going on, it will only ruin his image. He warns her that the crown prince is a person who will not hesitate to approach her, since Aisa is surely furious about how close he is to the house of Elifritz, even though they have yet to get engaged. Ariel assures him that no matter what the crown prince does, it will not affect their relationship, to which he agrees, and they both decide to enjoy the party that night. At the party, the crown prince calls Siegfried, which irritates Ariel since she's hoping they won't run into him. He is also the first person to greet them. What a way to ruin the evening! He's taunting Siegfried for being so terrifying yesterday, and now appears to be having a good time with the ball he prepared. The crown prince pretends as if he misses his little brother so much for being away on the battlefield for so long, and offers him a toast. But before they can do so, Siegfried taunts him back while everyone is listening. He goes on to add that he had no idea the crown prince even liked him, much less missed him, given how hard the crown prince had worked to get rid of him. The crown prince acts as if he doesn't understand what he is implying in front of the crowd and begins to change his mood, warning Siegfried not to ruin his perfectly planned celebration. Siegfried does not back down, and he tells the crown prince straight out that they were having fun at the party before he showed up. When the crown prince leaves just like that, Ariel doubts he's leaving without a fight and thinks he's into something. But Aisa did not approach them after the incident. Siegfried is enjoying his wine at the bar when a servant approaches him to refill his empty glass. And as he is about to drink it, Ariel grabs his arm and invites him to dance with her. So he puts his glass of wine aside and follows her to the center of the dance hall, where they hold and stare at each other. And when the music begins, they dance, ignoring the people watching them. The nobles are captivated by the charming couple, and the rumors that they met when the prince was taking refuge make them believe their love is destined. Meanwhile, the crown prince is only watching from a distance, and as the music stops, he tells everyone to raise all their glasses to salute the empire's success, and they all sip their wines together. Siegfried and Ariel don't realize they've switched glasses and are drinking it as well, when suddenly she coughs nonstop and blood pours from her mouth. She falls and can only hear their fading voice. Ariel's senses are fading and she enters a long dream where she recalls that she is not originally from this world, but becomes Ariel upon her arrival. She sees nothing but darkness, wondering if she's even alive, and starts to worry about Siegfried and her brothers. Just then, she finds herself in a flashback in the middle of a hot summer night to when she first met Siegfried. However, her memories aren't matching up with these flashbacks. This time, Siegfried was attacked by assassins, which was not meant to happen considering she was there to help him. They did not get the chance to get closer since the prince was hardly awake after being poisoned, and when he did wake up, he was so distant. When compared to the young prince she knows, this version of Siegfried is so cold and guarded that he would never allow anyone to get near him. Ariel has no idea what's going on and believes what she's seeing is not her memory. Perhaps she's inside a dream. She continues to watch the episodes, and this time, Siegfried returned home to their manor injured. And instead of the normal Ariel ready to scold or worry over him, she's just standing on the sidelines listening to a concerned Abuzian. Siegfried is used to getting targeted by assassins and tells Abuzian not to bother protecting him since it will not change anything. Those words sound really familiar to Ariel, and unlike in the past she knows, when they always got to each other, this Siegfried was empty and always injured. And something about the way he always repeated the phrase, "nothing will change," every time someone showed concern to him, rings a bell for Ariel. It's the same phrase the young prince used to say back then, and hearing it again, she realizes she's not in a dream, but rather reliving her own past experiences. In these memories, the two of them never interacted, and they never had a single conversation even after the prince left for the Eastern War. She felt terrible for not saying anything to console him when he was going through a tough time, and before she knew it, she found herself getting engaged to Aisa simply because her family is close to Siegfried. After 5 years, she was still stuck with the crown prince while Siegfried returned as a war hero. Aisa felt intimidated by the return of his brother, so he rushed to marry her in hopes of keeping Siegfried in check. But then rumors started to spread about Siegfried's war against him. She's now seeing the part where she went to a ball, the present ball she's at. But in this memory, despite her trying to talk to Siegfried, he ignored her. She then sees Aisa standing out in the distance with his evil smile, and she starts to get uneasy. After some time passes, she and Aisa walk up to Siegfried, where the crown prince formally introduces her as his fiancée. Siegfried isn't interested in talking to him, so he wants to leave, when Aisa offers him a toast to celebrate his return. But Ariel suspects something strange in the wine, so she grabs it and drinks it herself. The two princes are in shock when Ariel starts to vomit blood and collapse. She truly regretted not being able to help him when he was struggling, so she decided to take action now, even if it cost her life. So to summarize, after she transmigrated in this world, she died in her first life and is now living her second. She doesn't know what caused it, but when she opens her eyes, everyone around her is frozen still, and she sees Siegfried releasing a power. Then she figures out that Siegfried was responsible. With his ability, he can reverse time. Okay, so Siegfried reversed the time to save her. She uses all of her strength and asks him not to turn back time again, and she assures him that she only drank a bit of the poison and just needs an antidote. However, Siegfried is so anxious he can't afford to lose her. Plus, the antidote might not even work. Ariel yells at him to wake him up to his senses and explains she only had a sip, so it's nothing serious. She doesn't want to leave him and have him experience this life all over again. She wants to fight alongside him. Thankfully, he trusts her and agrees to stop reversing the time. The constant desire to help him stems from unresolved regrets and remorse from her past self, and now she can finally put that part of herself to rest. After some time, she finally wakes up and finds a cute Siegfried sleeping beside her. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, Aisa informs his knight of his change of plans. He did not expect Ariel to drink the poison wine intended to kill Siegfried. Well, your plan is really shabby in the first place. Even before, Siegfried has always managed to avoid death with his luck. Aisa always wanted purple eyes, the most sought-after mark of having Imperial blood, just like his brother, who was born with them. Throughout the years, those Imperial family members who had purple eyes amassed immense powers, which they utilized to bolster the Imperial family's position as the highest authority in the land. Each receives their own unique set of random skills, none of which are the same as the others. One emperor had the ability to manipulate fire, another could discharge lightning, and yet another possessed healing powers. The power is boundless, but the number of Imperial members born with purple eyes began to decline several generations before Siegfried was born. He didn't appear to have any powers, but his very presence threatens Aisa's status as crown prince. Even at a very young age, this evil crown prince used every means to dispose of him, and when Siegfried left after his mother died, he still continued to assassinate him. But one day, he received a report that he was doing well at the home of the Elifrits. Not only was Siegfried alive, but he was also earning his reputation in the south. And after arriving as a war hero, Ace eventually loses his mind and wants to kill his brother with his own hands. He feels anxious and doesn't want to compete with Siegfried for the throne. He had already poisoned their father enough to make him stay in his bed, so he wanted to poison his brother as well. However, everything went wrong after Ariel blocked his plan. The Elifrits family is generally seen as neutral, yet they keep defending Siegfried anyhow. And it irritated him even more that he couldn't eliminate the family because of their prominence in the south. He set on marrying Ariel to make the House of Elifrits under his command. But it's clear that our girl is bored and indifferent whenever he's in the room. Aisa's thoughts are interrupted when the knight announces Ariel's awakening. But what surprises him is that Count Elifrits, Abuzian, has openly declared allegiance to Prince Siegfried. The sight of an awake Ariel brings tears to Millard and Claire's eyes, while Abuzian stays composed and expresses his worry by patting her head. She reassures her brother that she's all right, but not for him. He will not allow this incident to go unnoticed, and our girl agrees. Then Siegfried walks in and shares the doctor's prognosis that Ariel's senses are still paralyzed, but will recover gradually. So until she's feeling better, she needs to spend some time resting at the prince's palace. Abuzian is about to say something to the prince, but Siegfried cuts him off because he too wants to make sure Aisa pays for what happened to Ariel. Well, that's one of the things Abuzian is about to tell him, but the other reason is to formally inform him that the Elifrits family has decided to back him since the crown prince has crossed the line and tried to hurt his beloved sister. He has already announced his allegiance to a large gathering, so the news has surely reached the crown prince. Then, to demonstrate his devotion, he gets down on one knee, trusting the prince to protect the Elifrits family, especially Ariel and the future empire. Even Claire's family, the House of Marina, pledges their loyalty to the prince. Prince Siegfried returns the salute and promises to do whatever it takes to live up to their expectations. Later that night, Ariel is concerned for the prince's well-being because he has spent the entire day with her without eating. That's the last thing our guy has in mind, so he diverts her attention by acting all cute. Her grown puppy. It appears that Siegfried has no recollection of ever using his abilities to turn back time, since after she regained consciousness, he just cried and was glad she woke up after 3 days. He didn't say anything about his ability, so she's not sure if telling him is a smart idea. She survives, and now Elifrits has become the crown prince's enemy, but she has no idea what's going to happen next. She's beginning to wonder if she's truly in a novel or if everything is merely memories from her first life. The two of them fall asleep, but Ariel wakes up after hearing Siegfried have a nightmare. She wakes him up and is surprised to see him crying. He had a dream where Ariel died after vomiting blood and described that she was wearing the same dress she wore during the ball. She starts to doubt that it was simply a dream, and perhaps he's seeing their past lives. After Siegfried furiously reveals that he also saw her already engaged to Aisa in the dream, she is certain that the dream is actually revealing to Siegfried their past lives without him knowing. Ariel reassures him that his dream is not to be taken seriously because, as the old saying goes, dreams are the complete opposite of reality. She wants him to be at ease and share more about his dream since it might be able to help them in some way. This is not his first time having these nightmares, and in those dreams, everything went wrong. They were barely acquaintances, but he's fine with it as long as she's safe, and he'd rather carry the burden alone than drag her into it. So Siegfried loved her right from the start. He blew every chance to get closer to her, but he vows to live and grow strong enough to approach her someday. When he finally did see her again, she was already covered in blood, and all of his efforts to become a worthy person for Ariel had been for nothing. He regretted his life. He should have told her he liked her right away. He should not have allowed Aisa to steal her, and he should have recognized Aisa's evil plan that night so she would not have to save him. These are just his dreams, but thinking about it hurts his heart. His reality has accomplished everything his dream could not, so he tries to laugh it off that perhaps the old saying is really true. However, he cannot stop wondering how realistic his dreams are, and he thinks they may reflect his unresolved past regrets. Ariel couldn't help but ask him if he would believe her if she said maybe all of his dreams really did happen sometime in the past. He asks her jokingly whether her illness has gotten worse, and she snaps back to reality when she realizes that he will never believe her ridiculous claim. She still wants him to continue what happened after she passed away in his nightmare, but he shares that he used her passing as a reason to attack Aisa but didn't dream of anything else after that. He tucked her into bed and told her to get some rest. He also reassured her that he would go to bed once she dozed off so she wouldn't have to worry. But before she goes to sleep, she requests that he let her know when he will start having dreams again. And she lies that she finds it interesting to know different possibilities for their lives. She believes that Siegfried is clearly witnessing his past life through his dreams, and she's certain there's more memories from his past life that aren't in their present timeline yet. So she wants to try and use them to help Siegfried become emperor. A week later, the doctors are amazed by her quick recovery. But when Lady Lanesha and other noble ladies visit her, she pretends to still be sick. She is in wonderful shape and simply plans to use her bad health to harm Aisa's image. Lady Lanesha provides her medicines and magic potions to help her heal, while Lady Camilla questions whether she really thinks the Crown Prince poisoned her. This girl? Really? Prince Siegfried is widely known to be the Crown Prince's thorn in the side, so Ariel can't think of anyone other than him to be responsible for this act. But Lady Camilla disagrees and asks why the Crown Prince would do so publicly. Thankfully, Lady Lanesha stops this girl and tells her that it might be rude to say that in front of Ariel, the victim. When the ladies leave, she realizes this entire incident can either help dethrone Aisa or be the perfect opportunity for nobles to get the Crown Prince's favor. Now that she's by herself, an arrow comes through the window and lands on the table. She gets confused by what is going on until she spots a letter encircling the arrow. The letter is from the Crown Prince, who invites her to dinner to make amends. The audacity of this guy! That evening, Ariel and Siegfried are discussing what the letter meant since the invitation could be another trap. They are going insane trying to figure out what the Crown Prince is thinking because they thought Aisa would not provoke them this soon after having his reputation damaged. But since his reputation has already been compromised, he may not be hesitating to get rid of them now. Siegfried wants to ignore the letter, but our brave Ariel wants to take advantage of the chance to declare war on him for what he did to her. Judging by how the letter was sent, the Crown Prince seemed to want this dinner to be a secret. Therefore, Ariel intends to ruin it for him. She wants their dinner to be written about in every newspaper in the Empire so that it will garner the attention of the people and ensure that everyone in the Empire will pay attention to that day. With all eyes on them, she is confident that the Crown Prince will not try to play nasty tricks on them. Not long after, the dinner between the Crown Prince and the Second Prince was announced across the capital. In reality, it is just a simple dinner, but they make sure that the stories are worded provocatively in order to capture the public's attention. And on the day of the dinner, not only do guards accompany Ariel and Siegfried, but the Crown Prince's palace is staffed with Imperial soldiers. Aisa appears unconcerned by the elaborate preparations and security measures they have taken for such a simple dinner. He even jokes that their meal hasn't been poisoned, so they can enjoy it and relax. Siegfried can't believe he's hearing this from the person who actually did. Aisa denies the accusation and informs them he's innocent, and to prove that, a heavily injured man escorted by guards enters the room. The unfortunate guy trembles as he asks for help from the two, but he then receives another stab simply for speaking. The Crown Prince does the talking and explains that the guy admitted to poisoning Ariel's wine, but they couldn't get him to reveal who his master is. So Aisa offers the poor guy to Ariel as his gift and allows her to do whatever she wants with him, implying she's free to kill him. This both shocks Ariel and Siegfried, but Ariel speaks up and refuses his gift. The man could have poisoned the drink, but she knows he is under Aisa's command, so if she vents her rage on the poor guy, the Crown Prince will easily get out of this situation and end up innocent. In return for her kindness, the Crown Prince is willing to grant her any wish, and Ariel is surely not wasting this chance. Siegfried is confused when she suddenly stands up and goes over to the Crown Prince. This is new to Aisa, since she always feels disgusted every time he approaches her. Well, sorry boy. This is not something you should look forward to, because before he knows it, Ariel grabs his wine and splashes him. Yes! The Crown Prince stays calm and asks what she has done. Our girl just smiles and explains that since he will grant anything she wants, what she wants is to vent out her anger to him. Aisa looks at her and wants to know what he did to make her angry. So Ariel gladly accepts that she's certain he wanted to poison Siegfried and is now getting away with it by pinning everything to his servant. She has more reason, but if she elaborates it now, pouring wine on him will not be enough to satisfy her. Knowing that she'll never believe his lies, the Crown Prince bursts out laughing, stops the guards so they don't hurt Ariel, and then stares at her with a grin on his face. She flinches, not sure what this weirdo is thinking, and Siegfried can sense the tension rising, so he cuts in, preparing to go home. He holds Ariel while Aisa is still laughing, assuring them that they can never put him on trial. Then the two walk out of the room. Just as they reach outside, they hear a loud cry from within, and Siegfried is positive Aisa executed the poor servant. They are now inside the carriage, and Siegfried shares it was his first time seeing Aisa use that expression earlier and worries how dangerous Ariel's action was. She isn't happy with how things turned out, and she could have died instantly, but she still feels like it was her only chance to humiliate Aisa. Siegfried advises her not to travel in small groups, and she should go back to the Illifritz Manor just to be safe. She declines, and since the poisoning incident, this isn't his fight alone, so she wants to stay beside him. They then talk about taking the Crown Prince to the court. They have to prove Aisa is behind the poisoning so they can publicly reveal his true color, so that will cause people to stop supporting him. The outcome of the trial will have significant impact on who succeeds to the throne, and Siegfried recalls that in his dream, aka his past life, Aisa invited him to dinner to discuss the trial, and Siegfried ended up winning it. However, the Emperor died soon after that, which surprises Ariel since it means the transfer of power in the past happened quickly. She's having a bad feeling about this and thinks Siegfried will shortly go all out against the Crown Prince following the trial. But she wants to know the most important part, which is whether or not he will become the Emperor in his dream. But our guy seems gloomy and says he doesn't know that far yet. She may have asked a sensitive question since this is the part after she died, so she takes it back and says they shouldn't take his dream seriously. What counts is right now. The next day, she's having a meal with Lady Lanesha, and Ariel shares the entire situation with the Crown Prince, from the awful dinner to their plan of putting the Crown Prince to trial. The key to winning the trial is finding the poison wine's source, and the lady gladly informs her that her family is well versed in herbal medicine, so perhaps she can help. Ariel accepts and really appreciates Lady Lanesha's kindness. Abuzion then enters the room while Lanesha leaves, and he remembers that the lady's family is known to have produced an empress, so they were really wealthy back then. Anyway, they change the subject and talk about their court preparation. Siegfried arrives, and the three of them are discussing the evidence they need to win the trial. Since the servant is now dead, their only remaining option is to find proof that the poison was truly prepared by the Crown Prince. At this time, all they can ask for in court is compensation for Ariel's injuries. But if they can prove that Aisa was responsible for the incident, they will be in a much stronger position. Remember Killian? He was actually at the ball that day, and while everyone was panicking, he blended into the crowd and collected the broken pieces of the wine. They sent it to an alchemist who found out the poison used was catarsia. The poison is created from the petals and roots of the flower, which only blooms in the most desolate land in the northern region and is guarded by the clan that has possessed it for generations. Because catarsia is a deadly poison, they would never give the flower lightly for fear of being held responsible if anything went wrong, unless there was a good reason to do so. They still don't know how Aisa obtained it, but if the people of the north discover it was used to injure someone, they will undoubtedly assist them in gathering evidence. And since it will take days to travel to the north, Siegfried already has someone in mind to help them. Who else? It's Killian. He looks good with his new hairstyle. Ariel is surprised to see that he remains loyal to Siegfried, and she learns that the two actually fought together during the war on the east. The prince sends Killian 5 days to travel to the north and bring back evidence as to how the Crown Prince obtained the catarsia flower. That afternoon, Ariel and Siegfried go out on the town for the first time. Though he's worried about her safety, he can't help but let her be after seeing how happy she is. They then enter a restaurant, and as they are ordering, they overhear the other table talking about the Illifritz putting the Crown Prince on trial. Even the news that the poisoned wine was supposed to be for Siegfried reaches them, and while it is wonderful that they believe the Crown Prince did it, their conversation drifts into the old rumor regarding Aisa's involvement in the death of the late Empress, Siegfried's mother. Ariel notices Siegfried's change in mood, and the public soon notice the couple, so they decide to leave. Since their mini-date got interrupted, Siegfried shows her a place where they can watch the town and sunset. Ariel really needed this break, and the two watch together in silence. She's really curious about his dream and asks if he will become emperor in the end, but again, Siegfried gives her a vague yes answer. And when she asks if he has a happy ending, he goes silent for a while before saying he isn't sure. What matters to him is that he's happy with Ariel now, which she smilingly agrees with. But in reality, she's anxious and can't help but compare their past lives and their present. Meanwhile, Killian finally arrives at the house of Alos, producer of the Cartesia flower, and finds it suspicious that the gate is already open. When he walks in, there are dead knights everywhere. Their bodies are still warm, so it's likely that the enemies were aware of his arrival and killed everyone before they could give him evidence. Then a man in a black hood approaches Killian from behind, and surprisingly, he knows that Killian is a former assassin of the Crown Prince. In fact, the mysterious man is waiting for him to arrive so he can make him an offer. Killian, please, stay good. Back at Siegfried's palace, both Ariel's brother and the prince are busy preparing for the trial, but despite his hectic schedule, Siegfried always makes time to see her. A green flag. Later that night, he gives her a surprise kiss on the cheek and starts telling her about his day. He visited the mansion of Viscount Efstein, who, like Abuzion, had been politically neutral before being persuaded to join his side. If Aisa plays dirty tricks, Siegfried will have to beat him with force, so he's been gathering knights in case the worst happens. Even though he's well prepared, he can't help but worry about the approaching trial because Aisa has been unusually quiet about it. They expected him to stop the trial, but nothing happened, so they can't help but suspect the Crown Prince is up to something evil again. Siegfried then leans his head on her shoulders, and when she suggests he rest in his room, he becomes upset. He misses her so much and would rather stay next to her. She blushes at how honest he is, and this time, she suggests he sleep in her room. Our guy is surprised and quickly blushes. She even teases him that he can smell her scent in the bed sheets. But Siegfried is too nervous to say yes, so she drags him to her room without waiting for his response. He lies down and smells the bed, as Ariel soon lies down next to him. He's acting really needy and asks her to hold him, and to her surprise, our guy isn't that shy anymore after he spoon hugs her and they kiss. Ah! They then talk about their future, when he will become the emperor and she'll be his empress. Siegfried is silent, perhaps remembering his dream where Ariel is no longer with him, while Ariel keeps imagining how glamorous their lives will be with their own children. She hopes he can make their children's lives as wonderful as possible so that she can see them age and die without any regrets. She wishes to leave the world with Siegfried in peace and wonders if he thinks the same. But when she faces him, he has a sad expression on his face and proposes marriage to her out of the blue. Of course, after everything is settled, Ariel will want to marry him, but Siegfried seems so eager that he wants to marry her right now. Ariel doesn't see why Siegfried is in such a rush, so she tells him she's not quite ready, which makes the prince frustrated. So he keeps pressing the matter. He appears to be really anxious right now, and Ariel begins to worry about him, asking what is causing him to be so concerned since they all know he will win and become emperor in the future. She doesn't understand, but he talks about not seeing anything, and he begins begging her to marry him before it's too late. Ariel, however, is adamant that they will wait until their upcoming issues are resolved before getting married. He looks so shocked and hurt and leaves the room without a word. That same night, Aisa wakes up from a really realistic dream in which he claimed Ariel as his own. Oh no, is he seeing his past life as well? The next morning, Siegfried did not come to see her, probably because of their fight. Ariel is trying to figure out what caused him to become so agitated. She wonders if something happened during his meeting with the nobles or if he saw something in his dream. She knows the trial and the throne are putting a strain on him, but she wishes he could relieve some of that stress by talking to her. The trial is set to begin tomorrow, so she'll likely have to face Siegfried in court by then. Suddenly, a servant comes in to tell her that someone has sent a gift, and to her surprise, a bunch of red roses fills the room. After putting him on trial, she does not understand why the Crown Prince would send her gifts now. She then reads the short letter included in the present, in which Aisa implies that they may be lovers in another world, which disturbs her because not even Siegfried is aware of his ability to reverse time. She didn't give it much attention because what worries her the most are the roses. She is terrified that if Siegfried finds out, they'll become even more distant, so she hurriedly instructs the servant to burn them. The long-awaited day has finally arrived, and Claire and the rest of the Illifritz family are all dressed in black in preparation for their appearance in court. As soon as they step inside, it's obvious that the court is split into two factions. On one side, Siegfried's uncle, the House Blanche, is joined by the other low-ranking nobles and the prince's comrades. The other side is made up of families that support the Crown Prince. Ariel starts to worry, but it subsides slightly when she catches a glimpse of Siegfried in the distance. She is told to stand in the middle as the complainant, while the emperor enters the court and takes his seat on the throne. This is her first time seeing Siegfried's father, and she is surprised at how senile he is compared to what she imagines. Then the trial gets off to a horrible start when the emperor publicly condemns our girl and thinks Ariel is making a fuss so she can get the crown princess seat. Ariel is confused since the emperor appears to be unaware of her relationship with Siegfried, despite widespread knowledge of it. She feels a chill as their chances of winning decrease after the Emperor himself defames her from the very start of the trial. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!